Hello everybody, Chris Smartage, Brotherhood of Light Show current YouTube channel. And we're going to continue with our 60s music series, and this week we got a music, movie, and a soundtrack. So let's go check it out. So here we are, and it is Woodstock, the festival, and the movie, and Woodstock, the soundtrack. So as you can see, there's 350,000 people in this photograph here, and it was took place in 1969, August 15th, 16th, and 17th, and also on the 18th. So the situation, I personally didn't go to Woodstock, but that weekend I looked it up. I went to the Fillmore West and saw Chicago Transit Authority, the Youngbloods, and Coliseum, which was a Bill Graham venue. Now, Bill Graham was promoting shows on the East Coast at the Fillmore East, and this particular weekend, he closed down the Fillmore East, which is a big weekend in the end of summer, and he basically didn't have any shows because all the bands were up here at Woodstock, which we're going to go over the bands in a minute, and a lot of the people that worked at the Fillmore East, which were very professional, sound people, light show, lighting, stage managers, all came up and worked at Woodstock. So they had a really good crew up there. And then here's the album over on the left here. There's a soundtrack album, and we'll get into that. So let's check out the next slide. So this is the film poster here on the left, actually, and the poster up on the right, the red poster, is the event poster, and it has the bands, and they look like they are playing on these particular days, and it's somewhat accurate, but the first thing, Jeff Beck Group on the 17th didn't show up, and Iron Butterfly never showed up, and Sly and the Family Stone ended up not playing on the first day like they have it here, but we'll get into that later. So there's the poster. The film was released. Okay, the concert happened in August 1969. The film was released in late March 1970. And there's a lot of story. They lost a lot of money on the concert, and it being a free concert. So the film made unbelievable $50 million at the box office, and it was filmed in 16 millimeter. And they took the film and made 2 segments a lot, so it kind of had a lot better resolution. Then they released this Woodstock 3 Days of Peace and Music with the green poster. 50 years later. Okay, in 2019, and it played in theaters, and I went and saw it, and it was an extended version of the movie, and it was basically they added about 20 minutes of intro of them building the stage and prepping for the event, but the music part of it remained the same as far as I could tell. So now let's go to the next one. So this is the soundtrack album here, and it's a triple album, okay? And it's one of the first triple albums ever produced, according to Wikipedia. And also, it came out in May. So the film came out in March, this came out in May, and it's sold double platinum. So it's a triple album that sold double platinum. Platinum is 1 million, so it's like 2 million copies. Really amazing. And I, of course, when I was I went and saw the film when I was in high school, and I also bought the album. It was like the thing to do. The Woodstock movie was a big deal, and it meant so much to our generation. And so what I'm going to review today is I'm going to review the album. Talk about each band that's on the album. I'll also mention extended songs that were done on the film, and I'm also going to mention the bands that weren't on the album, and then I'm going to go over the whole show, how it actually really went down, because the movie and the album are not exact chronological order of how the bands played. So we're going to get to the next one now. Okay, so here we go. We've got going up the country, all the kids coming to the concert. I got the picture over it. I kind of screwed up there. We've got Bill Graham, who came up with Michael Lang, who is the producer of the concert, from Florida, a head shop owner and finance. I don't know if he financed it, but he produced it. And then Chip Monk, the guy up here in the right-hand corner, and Michael Lang, while they're prepping the concert, not expecting this large of a crowd, okay? And then we've got Eddie Kramer on the left on the soundboard over there, and he is Jimi Hendrix's sound engineer and one of the producers for Hendrix's stuff now. And also he helped produce Led Zeppelin and many other bands. And he helped build Electric Lady Studios in New York City with Jimi Hendrix. So he was asked to come up and record the show. Okay, so that's how we get this soundtrack, because he recorded it. So he came up on Friday. He arrived really early. He had to walk a mile to get in, and he was backstage. And there was a trailer, and he went in there and it had a 4-track recorder, and it had an 8-track recorder, and then stacked on top of it had 3 more 4-track splitter things. So I had like 17 tracks, at least that's what I could figure out from the interview he did. And so then he went out, walked out in the crowd. It was early in the morning. There wasn't that many people there. And he went out to the front of the house, and there was a little booth out there. And there was another engineer there, and he was mixing with another small, like 8-track mixer. But he was mixing the front of house sound and sending it to Kramer back there. And then Kramer was doing the actual recording of the actual record. And so the first act that they recorded, okay, I'm going to get into the first act they recorded. So Kramer said he, had been backstage, messing with tape recorder or whatever. They have some kind of reel-to-reel, obviously, to tape it. He's back there technically and he said then he walks out on stage, maybe half an hour before the show's going to start, and he looks at this gigantic crowd, and he realizes, oh my God, it was like a city. So it was like 300,000 people. They all showed up, and it was like overwhelming. And he claims that the bands, the crew, and all the people that were there kind of realized that it was a very special event, and everybody was kind of super mellow, and including the band. People weren't arrogant. People were just like, okay, we got to pull this thing off because this is something else. So the first act he had was Richie Havens, and he had to use 4 microphones. There's another guitar player. And so it was a pretty simple. And once he got Richie Havens recorded, and Richie Havens does the first song live, okay, in the movie. And it's called Freedom. And it's great. And it really captures the concert. And then Ravi Shankar on the left here was played there also. And so now we're going to get to the first side 1 or side A of the record. So some of the walk-in songs at the beginning of the film, when they're building the stages and setting it all up before these performances started, were Crosby, Stills, Nash, Long Time Gone, I'm Going Up the Country, Canned Heat, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Wooden Ships. So, and then Richie Havens does Freedom live, starts it live. So, then we had also, so on the record, we got Richie Havens' Freedom. We got Country Joe and the Fish, Rock and Soul Music. That's the second track. So they sort of got it going. This is the 2 guys on the left, Country Joe and his guitar player, Barry Melton. And then we have, after that, we have, let's see, John Sebastian, I Had a Dream. And during his set, it was raining, and then it cleared up, and he's all like giggly, and he's just kind of really hippy-dippy in this movie. But, you know, he was great artist for Love & Spoonful. Okay, and then we go to Arlo Guthrie, Going to Los Angeles. That's him on the right, the black and white. And then they, for comic relief, they have Sha-Na-Na at the Hop. And it's a little bit later in the movie, but it kind of like takes the tension off of, because they're just really funny, kind of 50s crazy dancer act, you know, 50s throwback. So we'll talk about that later. So we got side 2 here, and side 2 is going to start out with Country Joe. So there's Chipmunk, the announcer, on the far left. He had the big bass voice. Okay, it's time for 10 years after, you know, that was his spiel. So Country Joe gets out there. He actually wasn't scheduled to play solo, but they needed somebody because the stage was wet and they couldn't really hook up all the amps. So they just got him out there, and he did some acoustic stuff. And then he walked back. He said, the crowd's not really digging me. And then one of the guys said, look, man, go do the Fish cheer. So he did the, give me an F, give me a U. And the crowd went crazy, and he sang Feel Like I'm Fixing to Die, which is an anti-veteran song. And he ended up, the whole crowd sang every note and knew the song by heart. So he won over the crowd. Okay, so after Country Joe, we got Joan Baez, and she does Drugstore Truck Driving Man and Joe Hill. Okay, and then we've got more announcements, and then Crosby, Stills, Nash comes on, and they do 3 songs on the actual soundtrack here: Judy Blue Eyes, and Wooden Ships, and Sea of Madness. So they end up, well, everything is not the way the album's laid out or the movie's laid out. Is all 3 things are laid out differently. So, but I'm going to go over the album because I think it's easier to follow, and then we'll talk about some of the other stuff later. Okay, so now we're in side 3, and we've got The Who, We're Not Gonna Take It. And The Who, on the actual movie, The Who played We're Not Gonna Take It, See Me, Feel Me, and Summertime Blues. So they actually played 3 songs in the movie, but they only get 1 on the album. Okay, and then Joe Cocker plays, and he's playing in front of that giant crowd you can see there on the left, and he does From a Little Help from My Friends. And then the guy with the hat and no teeth is Wavy Gravy, and he does a bunch of announcements, you know, like don't eat the brown acid and all this stuff. It's kind of cool, kind of comic relief. But The Who, I think, were one of the best acts. I mean, Townsend was just so into it. He's on his knees. He's bouncing the guitar off the stage, and Daltrey's in that outfit, throwing them. I mean, they were in great form. The weather happened to be good, and it just looked good. They had good stage lighting. They pulled it off. Okay, so here's a shot of the festival with 350,000 people. You can see they're camping everywhere. This is now on this far slope. They have Bethel Woods Amphitheater where we played with the Allman Brothers, and right about where these tents are is where they have the monument right now, where these cars are right in here. And then you can see the recording things backstage and some buses, and then where that ramp went down, they had like a tent for all the artists to hang out in. And they obviously had a place to land a helicopter because that's the only way they could get the artists in there. So I just wanted to show this in the full sun when it was looking great. Everything was going. Now, it had rained a little bit on Friday night, but obviously it wasn't a mud fest at this point. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide. So in the film, this gigantic thunderstorm happens one of the afternoons, and you can see it's pouring rain. You can see the front of house stuff's the mixing equipment's getting covered up, and with Bisqueen, and the people are just getting soaking wet, and Barry Melton, the Country Joe and the Fish were going to play at this point. They either played or played before or after, I don't know. But they were up there going, no rain, no rain. And everybody says, no rain chants. And it's also part of the album. You'll hear it on the album. So I just wanted to include that. Now, it's sort of right in the middle of the movie, so it appears like, the rest of Woodstock Festival is going to be a mud fest. So here's the next shot. So no rain, no rain. And there's Artie Kornfeld and Michael Lang, the two promoters. And there's the mud people, and they're sliding in the mud and going crazy. And then up in the right-hand corner is Max Yasgur, the guy that these two promoters rented the farm from. And he gets up there and has a speech when the rain stops and says, I'm a farmer, and the crowd goes crazy. And he's just a guy with a big heart and loves all the kids and really helped put together the Woodstock Festival. So anyway, got to have the Mud Fest. Okay, we got side 4, and the rain. It's not raining, and Carlos Santana's playing, and the huge crowd is there, and they had just come out with their first album, and they broke kind of nationally with this concert, and then also they became super popular from the album Soul Sacrifice, and just launched Carlos's career, and they were just fantastic. They were just on the money and playing great, and it's a great set. And then 10 years after, plays Alvin Lee there in the middle, and he did I'm Going Home, which is kind of a speedy, double-picking, show-off song, but at any rate, it's what he did. It's kind of cool, it's kind of a show-off thing, but 10 years after, it's kind of a flashy band from England. And then we had in the morning, one of the mornings, we had Jefferson Airplane open up like at 8 in the morning. They were still playing from the night before. So the sun is just coming up, and there they are on stage playing, and they did a set, and I think that the movie just has, let's see, what's it got on it? Jefferson Airplane, Volunteers. They just have that one song, Volunteers, which is kind of their famous 1969 song. So let's get to the next side. Okay, so side 5 of the record is basically all Sly and the Family Stone. And he kind of stole the show, man. He just danced to the music, love, I Want to Take You Higher. And he just, with that outfit, he's swinging his arms, and that really tight band with the horns and guitars, and really good drummer, and they just killed it. They stole the show. I would say at Woodstock, they were probably, and once again, it just launched their career into stratosphere. They are the best soul, funk, psychedelic band ever, and to this day, I believe they're one of the best in that genre. So, Sly and the Family Stone. It's on the album. So, the final side 6 of the triple album it's Paul Butterfield, Love March, and then it's 2 Jimi Hendrix songs, which are going to be Star Spangled Banner, Purple Haze, into an instrumental. But in the movie, Jimi Hendrix plays Voodoo Child, Star Spangled Banner, Purple Haze, Woodstock Improvisational, and Villanova Junction. And Villanova Junction ends up as kind of an instrumental where they're showing the place, the aftermath of the festival. And so here's Hendrix. He's got this beautiful fringe white leather piece of clothing that was made for him. It's fantastic. Now he is up at he's been up at Woodstock for weeks, and he's putting together a new band, and he's got a couple musicians he played with back in the Chitlin circuit, and the Rainbow Gypsy Sons, and they rehearsed a lot, and I think he was kind of like not partying and not burning himself out touring, so he was really fresh and great on this concert, and he had that band, and they were really tight, and he had a couple percussion guys and a rhythm guitar player, and this set is just unbelievable. And the greatest part is the guys that made the movie filmed every bit of him playing. And there's also on this gray DVD right here is a deluxe edition of his show on DVD, and it has a black and white version of the show that a guy filmed with a video camera, and they mix clips from the 16 millimeter in there, and then it has the actual 16 millimeter clips that they filmed with the color camera. So it's just spectacular. It's a must-have if you're a Hendrix fan. So now, at the end of the movie, they play this song "Woodstock," which was written by Joni Mitchell, and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young do it. But it's a studio version. It was made after the festival, but it's kind of the lead out of the movie, or the crawls. And then I think there's also some other stuff. Let me check this out. Yeah, and then "Find the Cost of Freedom" also is another song that's in the crawls of the movie. And the crawls are when they run the credits, and you'll see they'll play songs during that period. Okay, so now we're going to get to the bands that didn't make the movie and didn't make the album. So Janis Joplin made the movie. Okay, so she did one song, but she had been there all day, and she went on it really late in the middle of the night, and I think she'd been drinking, and she was kind of not in the best form. I'll just put it that way. Okay, Johnny Winter, this guy on the right, a blonde, he played, legendary blues guitar player, and then the Grateful Dead played, and the Grateful Dead came on, and it was raining. They were on at 9:30 at night, and it was raining the whole time they were on. Okay, Leslie West played, and they were getting shocked, so they didn't have a good set. Then Leslie West from Mountain played, the big heavy set guy there. And then Creedence Clearwater, John Fogerty right there, and he played. Okay, so these are all just top quality guys. There's also a scene in the movie where everybody's swimming in this lake naked, and there's also a really cute scene where there's a couple out in the meadow, and you see the clothes flying off and legs popping up and down, and it's kind of represents the free love of the 60s. So we'll go to the next slide, and here's other bands that played there. The Band on the left here, the Three Shots. They're Canadian guys, and they're really good. And then Canned Heat, right there, with Harvey Mandel and Bear and Al, Blind Al. There they are on the top. And then the Paul Butterfield Blues Band played. And there's Paul Butterfield on the right above me, and his band at that time. So those are other bands that played that aren't in the film or really shown that much on the record. So let's check out this final shot. So there is Max Yasgur, the farm owner, and his wife during the cleanup process of their big giant hillside where the concert was. And obviously got the tractor out there, probably hauling garbage out. And then there is kind of directly after the show, maybe the following day, how much garbage was left. And what a mud pit it was, and now this is what it looks like now. There's the monument I mentioned earlier. It has all the bands on it, and it's up on the hillside, like halfway up on if you're looking from the stage to the right, and that's the big open meadow where that fence is where that huge audience was. So that is basically what it looks like today. On the other side, there's a giant amphitheater called Bethel Woods, and it's Performing Arts Center. It's holds like 15,000 people and does, all the rock concerts there of the amphitheater circuit. Okay, so I had mentioned there's three different things. There is the actual concert, there's the poster, there's the movie, and there's the soundtrack album. Okay, there's all three. Now, over on the left, if you read that, is what the bands were paid, and you can't see, Jimi Hendrix was paid $18,000, and Creedence Clearwater was paid $10,000, and then everybody, like Grateful Dead, were paid $2,250. So that's what they were paid. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young was not there, but they paid $5,000. So anyway, but what I'm going to read right now to you guys is the actual order of the real concert, not the movie, not the album. Okay. So it started out with Richie Havens, and it's Swami Shahamda. He was a speaker, and then Sweetwater, and then Brett Summer, and Tim Hardin, Ravi Shankar, Melanie, Arlo Guthrie, and Joan Baez. And at 11 p.m., she did an hour set in the rain, but it was kind of a drizzly rain. Okay, that was the 15th. On the 16th, going into the 17th, now this is a big day, Quill, whoever they are. Then it was wet, so they had Country Joe McDonald do that acoustic, and then Santana played. Then John Sebastian played. It was raining, but then the sun came out, and he was all giggly on his, when you see him in the movie. Okay, Keith Hartley Band, the Incredible String Band, and now it's getting nighttime, and it's Canned Heat, and then Mountain, and then Grateful Dead. It started to rain at 9:30, and they played in the rain at 9:30 at night. Okay, then Creedence Clearwater must have cleared up. Then Janis Joplin, so now it's like 2 a.m. Then Sly and the Family Stone. Then The Who, and this is all Saturday. Now The Who, you can start to see that there's light out when they're playing. You see the sun's coming up from the east side where Townsend's playing in one of these pictures. So, and then the Jefferson Airplane, it was morning when they played. So that day ended. So now it's Sunday, the third day of the show, okay, and on August 17th, so, they opened up at like 1 o'clock or whatever, and Joe Cocker opened up with full crowd out there, as you saw in the picture, with a little help from my friends, which is great. And then Country Joe either got played but at 4:30, a thunderstorm moved in, and it rained for like 3 hours and just dumped. And so the third day is when they had the Mud Fest. So everybody survived 2 days previous, 2.5 days really. So if you're jumping around in the mud, you could probably leave and, that evening and, go home and dry out or get your car or whatever. So, but in the movie, it appears like it happened in the middle of the festival, but it happened then, and that's when they have the rain chant. Then 10 years after, then the band, then Johnny Winter, then Blood, Sweat, and Tears, then Crosby, Stills, Nash. So they're probably playing at like, 3 in the morning, right? And then now it's starting to get light out, and Paul Butterfield played. And then the funniest thing is that the sun came up and Sha Na Na was playing. And in the movie and in the soundtrack, they're like on the first day or the first album or the first couple days, and instead they really were the second to last band. And then it was like 9 a.m, and Jimi Hendrix came out and played that 2-hour set, and half the people left. It's Monday at this point, August 18th. So that's the real lineup. I just wanted to get that straightened out so everybody knew. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show, man. It was really interesting to study Woodstock and try to turn you guys on to what it took. Now, the other thing is there's an album with these little naked kids up there. That is Woodstock 2. And should I go over that really quick? Woodstock 2 has got 3 Jimi Hendrix songs, 2 Jefferson Airplane, Paul Butterfield Blues Band, three Crosby, Stills, Nash songs, and Young. It says and Young, but I don't think Young was there. And then Melanie, Mountain, Canned Heat. So that's the second record that came out, but I don't think that sold anything like the other one. So that's it. Let's go to the next slide. Hey, so please subscribe if you guys like the show. I'm trying to keep it in the 60s and early 70s, and I think this was one of the big selling albums. Now, in my opinion, this is when the music business changed from, I mean, it was a blooming business at that point, but this became a Madison Avenue thing, and this album was huge, and this movie was huge. And, you know, like there was cover bands playing the songs off Woodstock, and it just became kind of like generic. And I used to go to the Fillmore, and I liked going to see my bands up there, and it just kind of made it turned the rock music into commercial music. It was just that point when it flipped over. Now the other thing is, this is a live album, and there's a bunch of live albums that came out after this. So Jimi Hendrix, Band of Gypsies, Humble Pie, Rockin' the Fillmore, Live at the Fillmore, Allman Brothers, Johnny Winter Live, and they were all recorded at Fillmore, probably through the same equipment that recorded this show. So it started a trend of live albums too, because I think that there's some stuff recorded at Winterland, and there was a Cream album, or Cream songs, but. So this is really, kind of got that going too. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm going to sign off, and we'll see you next time.